Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. It is Samantha and Lauren here with you. And today we have Julianne Kohlbrand. She is awesome. And after getting a degree in economics and accumulating $107,000 in consumer debt, Julianne knew something had to change to save her marriage. She is now debt-free and teaching other families how to walk the same path. With a later in life diagnosis at 42 years old, she understands the constant struggle and has developed her own method to simplify money management that works for her brain and others. So, Julianne,
Mhm.
welcome to the podcast. So excited to have
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a treat.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how you're involved in the neurodivergent community? I know you have your own diagnosis
Yeah.
and maybe like how that came about, because like me, you got diagnosed later in life. And so
hmm
just tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm ADHD and I got my diagnosis about a year ago. And it kind of started because I'm a later in life mom also. My daughter was born when I was 36. And I was not showing up as the mom I wanted to be. I was getting really frustrated with things that didn't used to bother me. I felt overwhelmed in a lot of things. And so I went through doctors and ended up with a great therapist who talked me through a lot of things. And then she's the one that gave me my diagnosis and realized that this is something I've been struggling with my whole life, but I didn't know. I always felt like I was a square peg in a round hole and I saw things differently than other people did. But some people called me quirky, and I was like, okay, I just see things differently. And when it came to money, I definitely saw it differently. I tried to do it the same way everyone else did. And that's kind of my story and why I'm so passionate now about helping people in the neurodivergent community because we do things a little bit differently, like than neurotypical people. And so money is one of those things that I realized as I had more and more conversations. I said, oh, I'm not the only one that struggled, even though I had all of this head knowledge and all this book smarts. Applying it to our lives and our day to day lives and managing our symptoms was such a challenge. So that's kind of what brought me to where I am now as a financial coach for the ADHD specifically community. So,
Awesome. Yeah, we have very similar stories. After I became a mom, I was like, I am not the mom I wanted to be. I feel overwhelmed all the
mhm,
time. What is going on? And then money. Like, I
yeah,
actually hired a financial coach last year, and it was a disaster, complete disaster, because she is not neurodivergent, and she was teaching me her system, and it was a lot of details, and I am not detail oriented.
Not
And
ADHD friendly.
no, it was not ADHD friendly. And so I was like, what is wrong with me? Because I cannot manage money to save my life. I struggle so much. And then I was listening to one of your podcast episodes, and it was about shame, about not looking at your checking account because you're ashamed of it. And oh my word, it like spoke to my soul because
mm,
I don't look at my checking account unless absolutely necessary because I feel like I should have more in it because it's not like we don't make money. So where is the money going, you know? And
yeah,
so anyway, I just love what you do and how you help people
yeah,
because it is different. You have to manage money differently
hmm
when you're neurodivergent. And then when you're
hmm
trying to raise neurodivergent kids, manage your money in a neurotypical way and do everything like
yes,
in the neurotypical way, it's not possible. And so can you
yes.
just give us like high level, what can us as parents do who might have ADHD or autism or whatever, and what can we do to help ourselves financially? Like, what tips do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest one is to give ourselves grace and just we don't have to be perfection and sticking to, a dollar for dollar budget. That kind of stuff is not it's not going to work for us. And we can try it, but we can really burn ourselves out and that's where that shame spiral comes in and that's why I knew all of the things to do, but just not being able to make it happen. And so setting up a system that works for your brain. So, some automation, because for myself, that whole saying, if it's important, you'll remember it, is such a lie. I can't remember what day my bills are due, but I know that I want to pay them on time because if I have late fees, those things are going to eat away at my hard-earned dollars. And so setting up a system that works for you, one thing that I encourage my clients to do is just put it on your calendar and have a check-in once a week. Now, I know some people will go, they want to check it all the time, and that's where we can get stuck in these. If rumination is a situation for you and you get stuck in those moments, is to maybe take those things away so that you aren't tempted. So I don't have my budget app on my phone. I do have my banking app on there, but creating some steps for yourself so that it's not, so that you don't find yourself stuck in those ruts. But then also the other thing is just talking about it and keeping it in a healthy way in the forefront of your mind. So we've done pictures around the house to help us remind us of what our goals are. And kind of the best way I would say is budgeting and money management is like a game of would you rather. And so I know that's helped me is to gamify it. So would you rather have this thing that we want to buy on Amazon or whatever, or be closer to our debt-free goal, or save for that family vacation, or whatever it is. And so having those visuals for ourselves, but then playing that would you rather game. And then the budget is going to help you with that decision fatigue. So before your money comes in how it's going to be spent, and it just reduces some of those overthinking thoughts that I get myself into sometimes, where you're just like overanalyzing everything and feeling I should be better at this or I should be better at that, and just making a decision so that when you are tired and your energy is low, that decision's already made. And so you can just follow through with it a little bit easier than if you had to make the decision in the moment.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I love the would you rather thing because I think that would help my brain just because in the
Mm.
moment you want the dopamine of hitting that
Yes.
buy button on Amazon. But then if you
Yeah.
stop and think about it and you're like, would I rather have this whatever new shirt or I like
Yeah.
clothes. So, or
Yeah.
would I rather be debt free and not have to feel that shame and not have to feel that
Sure.
pressure of having to pay off debt? And
Yeah.
so, yes, and gamifying it gives your brain dopamine too, which we need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do
Yes.
do you think it helps to have a partner or someone to help you hold that accountable of the would you rather and stuff? Because I feel like my boyfriend struggles with ADHD and money management,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm often like, I know you want this dopamine hit like right now, this
Yes.
instant gratification, but would you rather this? Or
Yeah.
this is what our goals are in the future. And I think it helps him having me say that versus just him on his own.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and that's kind of goes with, creating a system that's outside of our minds, because we are what is it? The 6 inches between our own ears is like the most dangerous neighborhood sometimes, because we can talk ourselves in, and I can justify anything. I can justify any purchase. But then if I say something to my husband, he's, hold on, does that line up with where we're going and who we want to be as a family? And so then we go, okay, wait a second. So, and that's one of the things too, that having that accountability person, whoever it is, whether it's a significant other or if it's a friend or myself or our community, it's really important to kind of have someone to bounce those ideas off. Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. How do you stop? I feel like if my husband was like, do you really need that? Or what are our goals? I might get a little upset sometimes. So,
Yes.
do you have any
Ooh.
recommendations on how to set that up so it doesn't become like, well, you're shaming me for wanting this, or why do you
Yes.
have to babysit me, or, stuff like that?
Yeah, because we're all adults, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing too is we want to teach our kids this stuff, because money is not going away. It's a tool that we use to accomplish our dreams, make memories with our families. And so figuring out a way that works for us. is important. And so this is, oh my gosh, Samantha, I love this question because this is something like, you said in the beginning, this almost ruined our marriage because I knew what to do. My husband was raised, spend all the money before someone comes to take it. And then we got married and we're like, hold on a second, we're doing things on a very different page. And so someone close to us said, this is the thing that's going to end your marriage. And so we decided that wasn't going to be our story. So we had to figure it out. And one thing that was really, really helpful for us is we decide all of our expenses together, but then we have one line item that's my husband's and one line item that's mine. And that's for, you can call it whatever you want. I have some of my clients call it ball out money, fun money, Jules's impulse buys. It's my Amazon account, whatever. And that money, for like my husband, he can spend it on whatever he wants and I have nothing to say about it. If he wanted to burn it in front of me, I could say nothing. That's illegal, but don't do that. But he can spend it on whatever he wants and then I can spend my allotment on whatever I want, and then everything else we decide together based on our goals for our family. So that has cut down on our money arguments and discussions a lot, because we don't have, there's no shame. Whatever that is off limits to have a conversation about. So setting up some healthy boundaries in that area, but the rest we get to decide together. So I'll make it and he looks at it and goes, yep, that aligns with where we're going, and make an adjustment here or there. But yeah, that has been really helpful for us.
I love it. My husband has an account. He likes to do Robinhood, like the stocks and stuff. And so then he stopped doing it, but still had his money deposited there. And I was totally fine with it. That's his money, whatever. And it was just funny because I was like, you have how much money? Because he's a saver. And I'm like, how much money do you have in there? And I'm like, that is it. I was just very impressed because I don't know why I just spend money when I'm like, do I really need to be spending that? And I can, like you said, I can justify anything though. I can be like, but we need this.
Yes. We
Do
need
you think
this.
do you think having do you think that the trick of sleep on it helps? Like, you think maybe you forget that you want that purchase?
Yes. That has definitely worked for me. I know that works for a lot of my clients. Yeah, just the 24-hour rule, just stick it in the cart. The other thing that I like to do, this is actually probably like the best organization tip for anybody, but especially ADHD, is create a separate email account for your bills. So it doesn't get stuck in your personal emails. It doesn't get lost or you forget about it, receipts and that kind of stuff. But when I do that, then sometimes those retailers will send you a coupon for, hey, you forgot this in your cart, and then you can check out 24 hours later if that's still something that you feel like you need or want.
I like it. Yes, one time it's just funny. And do you see your clients do this too, where I will have something that I want that isn't that expensive. Like I wanted this $30 pair of shoes for 3 years. But I was like, nope, can't buy those because I don't need those. And after 3 years, I was going to an event where like I really could justify those shoes. So I finally bought them. But do you ever have like things like, I can't buy that, even though you really want it, but in your brain, you're like, I can't overspend on that. But then you'll go buy something that's like completely frivolous. And I don't know. Is that a thing? Do people do that?
Yes.
Yes.
100%. I say like all of this stuff that we do is like information that's informing like our next decisions. And so for myself, I will find it sometimes it's really easy for me to do this, and then other times it's really hard. And so that's where I give myself a pause and say, okay, what's actually happening in this moment? Is it because I'm tired? Is it because I need that dopamine? Is it because I'm hungry? Or all of these other things that sometimes our brains will go to something else to fill that need that's not necessarily the need that we have. And so sometimes it's about the shoes, and then other times it has nothing to do with the shoes. And so I know that's a really hard thing to do. So I'm not saying that it's that it's easy for our minds to pause and go, what's really happening in this moment? But sometimes, like that 24-hour rule, if we just redirect, just like when maybe our kids might be, acting out and things like that. And so, what is it that they need? Sometimes they just need a hug. And maybe that's what we need, or something like that, to just pause and go, what's really happening in this moment? And then make that next move, because it might be about the shoes and it might not be anything to do with the shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you help your kids so they grow up and they have better money habits if like I'm
Yes.
struggling with money, obviously. So how do I help
Yeah.
my kids not struggle with money? Because I see my one son, and as soon as he gets money, he wants to spend it. And
Yeah.
then my other son is just, I'm going to save this money and then he'll buy something like eventually, you know? So how do we
Yeah.
teach them to have appropriate money habits?
Yes. So the very first thing is just talking about it. And I think that's where our culture, whether we're neurodivergent or neurotypical, we are trained not to talk about money because it's maybe one of those impolite topics. And I think that gets us in trouble and gets us, especially neurodivergent, it starts to feel that shame thing because we're like, I need help, but I don't want to talk about it because we're not supposed to. And I think as parents, and we're raising young people, it's really important to have those conversations in a healthy way. So, one of the things that I encourage my clients is to think about how money was talked about when you were growing up. And usually, if we are struggling with money, I even struggled with money, but I was taught how to manage it well and live within our means. I still struggled, and now I understand why. But talking about it is very important, and seeing how we want to do things differently than maybe we did growing up. So there's that piece. And then having those conversations and playing that would you rather game, making it fun, making it the one of the perfect examples. And so this is with one of my clients and her husband, but it's the same. We could do the same thing with our kids. So he wanted a gaming system. The gaming system originally was $1,200, and he'd been saving for it, really wanted it, and just said, hey, we could just buy this now. He waited, spent $600 on it, still got it, and had money left over because he bought it used, had money left over for all these other things. And so having those teaching moments, grocery stores is a great place to have those when we're talking about day-to-day finances, but having those conversations with our kids in the moment. We don't have to share our bank statements and things like that with our kids, but saying, hey, what are some goals that you have with your money, and set those things up before that money comes in is really helpful too. To say, hey, this is what
Awesome.
I want. Having those wants, the saves, and if giving is important for your family, that's another thing too.
Yeah. And then when I was growing up, my parents didn't give me an allowance or anything like that. And they just had me work in the house, and I did my chores and all of that. And my mom said, I can give you an allowance or I can just pay for what you need. And
Yeah.
they bought me what I needed. So where do you stand on, do we give our kids an allowance? What does that look like? Do we set up
Yeah.
like a budget for them? Or because I was thinking with my kids, like once they become, my son's 11, so as he's getting older, maybe giving him an allowance and then have him buy the things that he needs, and then setting up a budget so he can learn how to budget now, so that,
Mhm.
because my parents always, and I'm not blaming them,
Sure.
they just always said live within your means.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to do that with, without setting up a budget. And so, and I
Sure.
like, anyway, so yes, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I like this question a lot. And I will say, so my daughter's about to be 7. So for, age matters, but also doesn't matter in this context. So what we have done is we have an account set up for her. It's a savings account, because usually, at least for around here, there's a credit union that offers a really amazing savings rate on early, kids' savings accounts, so that they can practice that. So we put money every single month. That's part of our budget into that. And that goes to help pay for her extracurricular activity. She's in dance and ice skating and that kind of stuff. And so It's to take care of some of those extras. Then within the rest of our household budget, her clothes, all of the basic needs are taken care of. And then we have a list based on her age. So we started this, I think she was about 3 years old. And we say, hey, here are some age appropriate home tasks. Growing up, we always called them chores. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know why that word I'm like, I don't want to do any of them. So we called them home tasks. It doesn't really matter. But so for her age, it was like cleaning the baseboards. Now, the thing with that is it didn't matter if the baseboards got cleaned, but it was something that she can contribute to the household. And so it was an extra, but if it didn't get done, not a big deal. She was 3 years old. She could reach that. I'm not going to have her do, other things. But so now as she's gotten older, she has more age appropriate home tasks to do. And the thing with that is if she does those, then payday is Friday. If she does them, she gets cash that she can so it's based on her age. We do $7 because she's 7 every single week. So that's we put that in our monthly budget. But if she doesn't do the work, she doesn't get paid. So just if we don't do the work, we don't get paid. And then she has to wait for payday. So we're kind of instilling some of those, like, even though you've done it, you're waiting. And so this is where even though it's a small amount, it's building that skill that she's going to need later on if she has, an hourly job and that kind of stuff. But the way we've done it is it's based on some extra things around the house. So if they don't get done, it's not the end of the world. But if she wants extra money to do other things that aren't part of those requirements for us, or part of those qualifications, I guess, then she can earn that money herself. So
Awesome. I love that. My son is always asking me how he can earn extra money. And but then I tell him, and he doesn't want to do any of the things that I tell him. And he's, never mind. He wants to do like one thing. I can't even remember what it is now. But he just like, he wants to work in the yard. And I'm like, you've pulled all the weeds, dude. I don't know what else to tell you. The lawn does not need mowed more than once a week, And so, but if I ask him,
stars, come to my house.
Yeah. If I ask him to like clean something, or we pay for reading because he has such a hard time reading. I'll be like, if you read, a certain amount, you'll get paid. And he's just, no, I would rather not have money. And I'm like, okay. So we might do that though. That might
He's already playing it.
Yeah. Oh, he is a master at would you rather. Like he is so just, I don't want that. And no matter what we do, nothing's going to make him want that. And it's just really funny. But that is the PDA in him, the pathological demand avoidance. That's what I blame that on. But it's fine.
Yeah.
He can do what he wants. Yeah. So let's wrap up a little bit. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. We might need to have you back on the show because this is amazing. Do you have anything else that you want to share with our audience?
Well, first off, this has been absolutely amazing, and I would love to come back.
Cool.
I think kind of just the reminder of having grace for ourselves and remembering that just if we've tried something before and it hasn't worked, we are a different person than we were maybe even just a couple months ago, years ago. We've learned new things about ourselves. We've learned what's worked and what hasn't. And so just because something hasn't worked in the past, give it another shot. And personal finance is just that. It is very personal. And so each one of us is going to do things a little bit differently, and that's absolutely okay. It's when it's sabotaging maybe our goals and our way of life that we want, that we can take a little deeper look at and say, hey, what can we do to change this and shift it a little bit? Because sometimes it's not a major overhaul of the whole system. It is, deleting that tempting app on our phone, or making it so that we have to go to our purse to get our card and then come back to complete that checkout. Because when we put those barriers in, we're like, you know what? Would I rather sit here or get up and get that? Absolutely. I want to sit here. So I'm going to move on to something else. And so creating those little systems and kind of gamifying it for yourself to say, would you rather? It's going to be different, and it's an evolving system. So.
Yes, absolutely. And then what resources do you recommend people check out that you have, or that you've made, or that you just recommend?
Yeah. I have a podcast as well called the Debt Rebel podcast, DEBT Rebel. That's a great resource. You've mentioned it. And my website, same debtrebelpodcast.com. I have all kinds of free stuff on there. I have a blog as well to just, I would say, keep doing research and keep learning and keep looking and asking questions. I just sent out an email to my list to say, hey, ask me questions, because that is our best way to learn. We're going to learn what works for us. And for myself, I've found externally processing some of that stuff, we answer our own questions sometimes. But if we don't kind of step outside of our minds and stop and pause for a moment and ask those questions, then we can kind of stay where we are. And so just being curious about yourself, but also your money and how you can make it all work in a way that works for you and your brain.
Yeah, love that. Make it work for your brain. And then where can people find you online?
I'm on Threads right now. I'm really enjoying Threads. So that's a great place. Jules the Budget Nerd, JEWLZ, thanks to the early 2000s spelling of that name.
Love it.
But yeah, I'm on there. I enjoy hanging out and getting to know people. There's a great neurodivergent community on there. If you're not on Threads, there's some really amazing resources on there. So highly recommend.
Yes. I love Threads. I was never into Twitter, ever. I like got on there like once, and Threads is my jam. Love it.
Yes.
So
yes.
And the neurodivergent community is amazing on there. Yes. So I agree. And then our last question is, what do you do for fun?
Oh, I really enjoy working out and being active with my family, especially since my diagnosis. I have found that something that's really, really important for my overall health and wellness is just be active. So I went to the gym this morning right before this so I could be as sharp as possible. And then our family just got into ice skating and stuff like that recently. So that's been fun.
Cool. My daughter's going to want to come join your family. She went ice skating once and she was just like, I want to go every day. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. But anyway, so thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, Lauren, what'd you think? What were the highlights?
I love it. Outside of money, I really love this quote. The 6 inches between our ears is sometimes the most dangerous neighborhood. Love that. Love it. I think, like, we mentioned, like, talking, like, we don't talk about our finance. We don't talk about money. And I think that can be problematic. And I think that's especially, like, in relationships. And I think it helps to have that accountability. I'm ratting out my boyfriend here. He is ADHD hardcore, and that dopamine is a constant, like, instant gratification. I need this, and not doing well. They kick out. And I think for the longest time in our relationship, I can tell that he felt shame about it. He didn't want to talk about it. And I'm like, I can't help you if we're not going to talk about it, and you need help. And so I think it's okay to talk about it, especially if it's like with your loved one or your spouse, to get that help. Because once we started talking about it and he became open, things have significantly improved. And so, and I'm not trying to shame him. Like, I get it. And so I think it's okay to talk about it if you trust your spouse, and if you're with someone, hopefully you trust them enough to have those conversations and have that, like, accountability partner. You're talking about how you, like, could justify, like, the $30 shoes. And I just want to tell my Lego story. I really want the Lego fish tank. It's $500. I want it so bad. I have dreamed of a Lego fish tank since forever. I was going to make one myself if they never created one. And I'm like, I can't justify that $500, but I'm going to buy this $100 Lego set. And then next week, I'm going to buy this other $100 Lego set. And I buy these small Lego sets to have that, like, instant gratification. And then I'm like, if I just would have waited a month and a half or something, I could have saved that money for the actual one that I really, really wanted. And I think that happens to a lot of people, of what they, like, justify spending money on.
It's, do you want this big thing that you've wanted forever, or are you going to go waste the same amount of money on things that you don't
like
really
accumulates
want? That
like,
accumulates.
It's more instant gratification because we want that dopamine. And so I think that happens whether you're neurodivergent or not.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think she has great tips. Super helpful. Love it. Go check her out.
Yeah, definitely
For
listen to her
sure.
podcast. That will be in the show notes. I listened to it and I love it. And that episode about shame, I was like, oh, she understands me.
Right.
So,
And then on the kid front and like the parenting front, I'm curious how anyone, if they do, and you guys can put in comments and stuff, like how do you think play money plays a role? Does anyone use play money in that teaching?
yeah.
Because that's all I could think about when you're like kids and you're like real cash. And I'm like, listen, we're doing Monopoly money and we're system. But I'm just curious.
Yeah. So let us know. I will say my sister-in-law did that. She made her own, she put her last name and then called them her last name Bucks. And then her kids would do chores and there would be a chore listed on like a cork board and then the dollars would be attached to it. So they would go do the job and then they would take the job down and take the money. And then at the end of the week on payday, they could bring all that fake money and exchange it for real money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought
love
that was a great idea. So yeah.
Yeah.
But let us know. Let us know what you do with your kids and if you have any suggestions on how to get my life together. So okay.
Stop sweet.
Yeah, for real. Okay, we will see you next week.